Welcome back to the Dystopia. This is answering YouTube comments. So sorry they're late. They've taken me a while as I am quite busy, but here we go. This first one comes from Try2Ger. Trizger. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. This person says, amazing video. Thank you so much for your comment. This was on the video where we were talking about, is your mind a voice? I was talking about the differences of the sounds inside your head. And I think this was one of my better videos. I was very happy with how it turned out, and I would like to discuss these things more. The problem is that most people don't click on videos that are about what your mind is. Most people are not curious to look into this thing of what is the voice inside your head. What are these sounds that are your thoughts? What is the mind? It's a very interesting discussion, and I would love to talk about it more, although we'll see how it goes. Next comment comes from Adwit Wadhawa. Adwit Wadhawa. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. This person says Scientology ? And this was on a short preview video that I did in discussing enlightenment and experience and how those things are related. And the question of Scientology as an example is very interesting. It's a very good point, because what most people don't realize is that Scientology was originally founded as a transformation practice. It was actually an awareness technique and a method for personal transformation. And it was turned into a religion for monetary and personal gain, basically for greed. It was corrupted, yes, but in its most pure form, in its basic one-to-one person form, Scientology can actually be a useful method, yeah? And a lot of cults and religions and organizations that became corrupt were based on things that are actually very useful. Now, what people don't realize that in Scientology, the essential method is L. Ron Hubbard, or whoever it was that developed the technique, had this method which was where you go into a room and you sit down and there's another person there who's the facilitator, and the facilitator inquires questions, and they have a device, something sort of like a lie detector, right? And there's a parallel correlation. There's a comparison here between lie detectors that we can make, but when you're hooked up to this lie detector, they would ask questions and they would take you into certain areas of your life and then facilitate an awareness of those areas. Now, the idea is that you use the device and the guidance of the facilitator to go into the things that you are unaware of, the things that are difficult, the things that are making you feel uncomfortable, yes, triggering the lie detector. And with loving, caring, facilitating, then you can actually heal from that. Now, the problem is that these secrets or these parts of the unconscious were then used against the participants, a gross violation of confidentiality and trust in facilitators. Yeah, this is why we need trust in facilitators. That's why it's so important that when you establish a safe space for this work, it remains safe and it remains protected. Yeah, it's very precious to have that sort of space. But the corruption of Scientology and the horrifying things that went wrong with it was because people found that, you could use these vulnerabilities against the people that they were being used or expressed in the sessions. Yeah, so they would record sessions and unconscious things would come out and then that would be used against them, as we all know by now. But in its most basic form, this method of having a facilitator and a mechanical device, such as a lie detector or a sort of heart rate monitor or some sort of thing that does a hard, it's the hard science meets the subjective experiencing. You might have an EEG machine or something. There's lots of different machines that now have empirical data expressions of subjective experience. Yeah, and this combination is a big subject. There's lots of different variations and lots of different devices that do that. And yet the fundamental thing is that, we can work on these devices that use personal transformation as a good thing, and we can use them to create cults and horrible corruption organizations. So very good comment from Adwit Wadhawa. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Now, next comment comes from Mercy Amor 5992. He's not sure if that's how you pronounce amor or spell amor as in love in the Spanish. Mercia Mayo. Sorry, I can't pronounce it. I'm sorry. It's just a different name. But your comment is, I want enlightenment. And this was when I was also on the same video, I think, where I was talking about enlightenment and experience. And, well, Mercy Amor 5992, you can have it. It's a very big question. It's a very long journey. And you can learn the methods to get in touch with yourself, yeah? You can do a Who Is In Awareness Intensive. You can do a 10-day Vipassana retreat. You can do Osho Mystic Rose. You can do the Primal Deconditioning Awareness Intensive. You can do Path of Love, the 7-day Awareness Intensive. Yep. And that's just the beginning. You can do 30 days of dynamic meditation and Kundalini meditation. So that's 2 hours every day. Hour in the morning, hour in the afternoon. And if you want to really go for it on that, you would do evening meeting, which is the Osho discourse, right? You could do that for 30 days, see how you feel, see what changes. Now, these techniques, these processes, they put you in touch with something and they require a bit of work, but once you do them, you really be starting to get a sense of what enlightenment is experientially, yes? What you don't need is people telling you what enlightenment is. You don't need a description of what it is. Well, if that helps, then that's okay. But at this stage, you need to follow your curiosity. Yep. Now, you've left this little comment on the video. I don't know how much drive you actually have. It might be that you've just thought this, left a little comment, and that's the end of it. Yeah, that might be the end of your intelligence. But that the question is there, that you have said, I want enlightenment, well, that's something that's precious. And you can discover this and follow it as a journey. You don't know what it's going to be. You don't know what it's going to lead to. And really, if you want to be on the long road, you would join my lifetime burn meditation, which I do every single day, which I am part of the community, and I have regular updates on this. So if you really want enlightenment, join my community and we'll do the burn meditation together, the lifetime burn meditation. Thank you very much for your comment. Next up, we have Umzft. Great username. I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing that one right. Umzft. This person says, looking forward to day 23. So this was on the comment for day 22. So that's a daily update. Thank you very much for your comment. And I make the updates every single day. So day 23 and day 24 is out now. And tomorrow we'll be doing day 25. If you really want to take the step to participate, I would join the Lifetime Burn Meditation instead of just watching the videos. Next one comes from Grapentag. Grapentug. This person says, brutal trip, man. So this was on my story about a travel story about when it took me 3 days to get from Pune, India to Tokyo, Japan. A trip that usually takes less than 24 hours. So yeah, that was one of my worst travel stories, but it actually wasn't the very worst story. So I hope someday I get to share with you my worst travel story. But yes, I had a lot of comments from that travel story, and that's just some of the crazy situations that we find ourselves in when we are traveling the world and going on these adventures. So next one comes from Bob Jimmy Oz 05Z. This person says, step away from the crack pipe. Yes, that's very good advice. Thank you very much for your comment. And I believe that it is something that, we all need to do in our darkest habits. Now, I for one myself have not done cocaine. I've done many substances. Cocaine is not one of them. And I believe crack pipe is used not just for cocaine, but not just for smoking crack. You know these sort of drugs of the crack pipe, I'm actually not entirely familiar with. But I have had a number of friends who are involved in those things, and it has been very detrimental to their life. So very good advice, Bob Jimmy, O5Z. And actually, I do have more comments, but I'm seeing that I'm running out of time now. So there's going to be a part 2 to this. So please do leave me your comments as always. Thank you so much for all of these comments. Do subscribe, and I'll be continuing a few more answers in the next video. So stay tuned.